With these videos, I'm generally inspired by something that I come across during, my own sort of day-to-day life. And today I had a conversation with a friend, and in the background the radio was on. And as I've mentioned many times before, I don't listen to any news or watch the TV in terms of what's happening in the world. And that was kind of going on, and there was a lot of worry and concern and feeling confused and disorientated, and this energy of fear that's being projected with everything that's happening. And we were having a conversation, and I'm being told what's happening because I don't actually know. And there's talk of World War III, and all these countries being taken over, and being in this fearful state. So I just wanted to do a video to talk about that, really, and just my ideas around it, because many years ago I also went down, and you maybe have too, went down the rabbit hole of finding out that we've been controlled, manipulated. Oh my God. And that sent me into a real kind of fearful state. But it was also part of the awakening journey. It's not the whole part, it's just a part of it. And I now realise out the other side of that there is a much bigger picture at play, which is what I talk about on a daily basis. So I just want to talk about this in a clean, grounded way, without sounding dismissive or like I don't care about what's happening in the world, or idealistic and naive, which I know can be the things that people can throw back at you when we're kind of offering a different perspective of looking at things. So if you're somebody that has that with, family and friends around you, hopefully this might help in some way. Now, the way I see the kind of what's happening on the world stage, even though I don't exactly know what's happening, but I do know it is chaotic. And if you did watch all that, you could just be in fear 24/7. I know that it's within me. I feel like it's not random chaos. And what I'm seeing on an individual basis with the people that I work with, and what I've gone through myself, is what's happening with the world is the larger perspective of what happens on an individual basis. Now, as a humanity, we've been controlled, programmed, suppressed for many hundreds of years. And what's happening now, the same as on an individual healing journey, what has been hidden and suppressed and denied, controlled and unresolved, that's been pushed down, is now rising to the surface to be seen, felt and released, because the earth is also on an awakening journey, if you like. The earth is shedding and releasing density, just like we are on an individual basis. And obviously, if there's no awareness of this, it can just be simply terrifying. And again, that's also that individual's particular journey, and that's perfect for them. That's how they chose to play this game, if you like. So the external world stage mirrors what's happening collectively on the internal. And when fear arises, the instinct is to consume more information. I know that happened to me when I went down the rabbit hole of, what you could label conspiracy theories, is I need to find out more. And the more information and the deeper I dug and the more I went down that rabbit hole, the more I was bracing and in a fearful state and trying to wake everybody up around me, and just in an awful state of chaos within myself. But the key distinction I'd like to point out here, if you're somebody who's experiencing this or feeling confused as to what is the truth, is that awareness is not the same as fear-based vigilance. So this friend was trying to tell me, but you need to be aware of what's happening. And I was just gently trying to get this point across, that it's not that I'm not caring and all of those things. It's just that I don't need to be in fear. because I know that if I'm in fear, then I'm no use to anybody. And the fear energy feeds the system of control. Whether those systems are in your personal life, you know, somebody who's bullying you, or just relationships or jobs or whatever it is, or whether it's on the world stage and it's political, media driven, or, and I've noticed this as well, because straight after this I listened to a video which was very spiritual in nature that also had this fear-based energy. And what I would say here is that when you consume whatever sort of media or material it is, just ask yourself, what feeling does this that I'm consuming instill within me? And if it's fear-based, then I definitely turn it off or don't read it. It just needs to, if it feels like fear, then it's feeding the system of control. That's just the way I see it. And my awareness of that is, my consciousness chooses what to focus on. So I choose not to feed that. I didn't in the past, and I went down those rabbit holes, but by doing that, I've learned that that really doesn't help at all. So, as I've said, on the awakening path, many of us go down the rabbit hole, and you might be somebody who's done that, or you might be doing that right now. And it's that we're being controlled, everything's corrupted, something terrible is coming, prepare, brace. And it's not, you know, that can be part of the awakening journey. It can be how people get to where they get to, but it's not the whole story. The deeper awakening is the realization that, and this should land and feel really nice and calming on your nervous system, is that consciousness is what creates the experience. And frequency precedes form. And what we hold within our nervous system, our subconscious, and that can come from many places. It can come from our ancestral, you know, stuff within our DNA. It can come from childhood stuff, as we've talked about many times, and it can come from what's happened collectively as a trauma. Those things are what are reflected back into the world to us. But as we heal, and as we regulate, and as we reclaim our innate sovereignty internally first, the external has to reorganize itself. So my reality doesn't contain all of this fear-based narrative, because that's not within me. And it sometimes is surprising when I speak to somebody who is in, you know, everybody's in their own universe, because that's what we create. It just looks like a seamless kind of play that we're all involved in. But it is not bypassing, and it's not ignorance, it's alchemy, because as you shift the energy within you, and as I've talked about before, that offers codes and the opportunity for others to also do the same. So I think in another video I talked about the waves of awakening, and some people have chosen to do that first, and there is no hierarchy, there is no better than. Everybody is exactly where they should be, so there is no judgment. I'm reading a book at the moment, and I forgot what it's called actually, but there was a really amazing analogy which said, and I know that the word God triggers lots of people, but it talked about we are God in human form, just wearing a 4D headset, which I just really liked, because when we die, we take off the headset and we just remember who we are, which is also really nice as well, thinking about how we've been conditioned to think about death. And there's so many things I could bring into this, but I want to keep it to the point that is empowering. You are the captain of your consciousness. Where you send your attention, your energy flows. The universe says, okay, if want to focus here on fear, then okay, and we'll experience more of that, because you're choosing your experience. And what you repeatedly consume is your inner climate. And, you know, and this is true whatever the content is. So the friend was talking about the mainstream news, but then I listened to part of a video on YouTube which was spiritual in nature, but then was also wrapped in, you've got a year to prepare, you know, worry, concern, fear, disease, World War III, all the rest of it. So what I did there was really notice in my body a shift. As soon as that started to move into that, there was, no, this is not what I want to send my attention to. So I just turned it off. So my guidance would be to just really, whatever you're consuming, if it doesn't feel uplifting and inspiring and, you know, joyful in nature, turn it off. Because what would you like to feed? And this brings me back to the two wolves. You know, one is fear, anger, guilt, greed, shame, blah, blah, blah. The other one is love, joy, happiness, community, etc. Whatever you want to put on those. But which wolf do you want to feed? You know, so really start to have discernment about what you're consuming, especially in a media-based way. And know that you are so incredibly powerful. And fear is fear regardless of what costume it comes in. And it can be quite sneaky sometimes when it comes in, if you are of the kind of spiritual community. And there are lots of people I've noticed that are really pushing this energy of fear, which is really not helpful. And they're coming from their own space, but it's up to you to choose whether you want to experience that or not. So if it's true guidance, in my opinion, it really calms and the nervous system is not activated. So you can really tell just by your nervous system if something feels stressful, fearful. True guidance returns you to presence. It strengthens your inner authority, and it doesn't remove your agency. And it certainly doesn't collapse you into urgency or fear. So when content really pulls you out of your body, out of calm, and into these horrendously awful imagined futures, it's not higher guidance. And my instinct when I heard this was to turn it off, because that's embodied discernment, not avoidance. It's my choice, you know. So I was just really called to talk about this today, and there's many, many different ways in which I could go into lots of different things, but I don't want to make this video really long, but I just thought maybe somebody also needed to hear that today, and I hope it helps. And I'd love to hear your comments and your journey of awakening, if you feel called to do so. Thank you for listening.